Well, Razorback fans, Eric Musselman is interviewing for the USC job today. Great.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of the John Nabors Show, which you can catch every weekday afternoon starting at 4 on Natty State Sports and nattystatesports.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful, 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 wonderful Wednesday. All right, so we're going to talking about this, folks. And like, it's just crazy. Spring football, I got to hear from Bobby Petrino. I got to talk to him. We'll get to that later. But it's about basketball right now. And for those of you who may not have known or you're waking up, it's not a nightmare. It's not more nonsense of bad reporting or scuttlebutt or rumor. It is a full-blown legitimate report that Eric Musselman will be officially interviewing for the USC job, University of Southern California. This is according to On3. If this was recording to some rando of media member or some person that was just putting out some spec, then that would be one thing. But this is On3, and On3 is a legitimate platform, a legitimate outlet with legitimate reporting. And the one that originally put it out there was Scott Schrader, who is a reporter for On3 at wearesc.com. and covers USC sports. So this is about as legit can get. And he's reporting that Eric Musselman is interviewing for the USC job. Well, I have a lot of thoughts on this, folks. This has been a roller coaster, crazy thing. Between the constant feel of the suspect stuff that's been going on and the lack of communication and the lack of understanding and the lack of everything, it's been frustrating to have to deal with. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but to deal with the fans who are wanting answers, but also dealing with the people who are involved getting answers from because nobody wants to answer any questions. So when we get to that point, we just continue to wonder and speculate. But with this is no longer a deal where Eric Musselman has reports going out or there's a miscommunication somewhere. This is legit. This to me right here, folks. It tells me that Muss does not want to be here anymore. I hate to look at it as a doomsday scenario, and who knows, by the time you listen to this podcast, he may officially be the coach at USC. It could move that quickly. And we'll talk about what happens if he does move on that quickly. But I think this is over. I think the Muss era is over at Arkansas. I believe that and think that because even if he didn't take the job at USC or if USC did not offer him the job, if that did not happen, you can't just come back from this. The awkwardness is there. The uncomfortableness is there, not only with the fan base, but with Hunter Yurachek and with the video that Yurachek put out, which is another thing we'll talk about here soon. But to me, it's over. You can't you can't do it this way. You can't have it reported and put out that you are interviewing for a major job, a lesser program, but a major job, and convince anybody here that you're still fine staying here. Like, no. This is not a stepping stone job at the University of Arkansas. This is not just like, oh, gee, golly shucks, we'll help we keep him for as long as possible until he goes out and gets a better job. No. This is showing that it's not, the whole thing like with women's, like, it's not you, it's me. No, this is the ultimate, it's not me, it's you. Because I got rumored to this Louisville job and connected, or maybe the SMU job got connected. But this one is the one that I'm actually getting a full-fledged interview, and I'm willing to go out there into Southern California and interview for the job. Not talking, not targeting, not reached out, interview. Folks, I could be wrong, but I know that each and every one of us have gone through a job interview. Have any of us ever gone through a job interview that we didn't want that job for? Would we have gotten to that step if we didn't want it? Of course not. And it's the same thing with Muss right now. Muss wants this job at USC. And I think even more so, he just doesn't want the job here at Arkansas. He does not want to be here at Arkansas anymore. So how frustrating, how disappointing, how sad that it's come to this. And it's come down to this. I've said this on my show. I never was under any impression that Muss was going to stay at Arkansas for the long-term deals. Like, I never felt that way. The second he was hired, and I was so excited because I love the hire, just looking at his background and where he's coached at and everything, I just never looked at that as, oh, yeah, that'll be a spot at Arkansas. He'll be here for 15 years. I never felt that way. And I was okay with it because I'm like, hey, if you deliver results and success, if you won a national championship and you left, I'd be like, sucks, but I get it. And even for the USC job, because we all know about his connection to the West Coast and how he likes being on the West Coast and wants to be on the West Coast. Even him leaving for that job, I would have been bummed by, I would have been disappointed in, but I still would have understood it because at some point in time, you want to go home. You know, we all have that sometimes, and it is that apparent in coaching. But it's the way it's all been handled is what's ruined this entire thing. It's not about just wanting the USC job. It's about wanting out of Arkansas. And with no communication, with nothing, and with that Yurachek video, and then the follow-up response from Yurachek about that video, and then Muss and them not being collaborating on that video, and then now the interview process, it's like, y'all are on the complete, total opposite ends of the spectrum here. You guys are not on the same page. And if the athletic director and the coach are not on the same page, it's over. It's over. I just don't know how you could expect to come back from this. Like, you know, it's like you go and it's like you're dating somebody, and then you go out on a date with another person, hoping it works out, and it doesn't, and then you still, while you're dating the other person, you come back and say, hey, I know I dated that other person, but we can still be together. It's like, no. You want it out. There's no coming back from that. There's no coming back from that. And I want to be clear about this. I am not going to discredit Eric Musselman and the job he's done here at Arkansas. Absolutely not. The dude was awesome. 8 wins in the NCAA tournament in 3 seasons. Overwhelmingly successful. I know this past year sucked, but overwhelmingly was a successful coach who brought Arkansas to a national relevancy that everyone knew they were capable of, but it could never have gotten to that point since Nolan Richardson left. And I am so appreciative of it and thankful for it. And I am forever going to remember Muss for that. That being said, I can't get down with the way that this has been handled by everybody involved. I mentioned it. You could have simply just come out and said, hey, I'm the Arkansas coach. And if that was the case, it would have been believable. But now I'm starting to realize, I think everyone's starting to realize, as hopeful as we may have been, no, he just didn't want to be here. It was obvious. If he wanted to be here, he would have said so. A guy who's so active on social media and so outspoken and so loud, when he goes radio silent, it's not because, oh, he's just focusing on things. No, it's because there's something else going on. And I hate how this has been handled. It's going to leave a horrible taste in everyone's mouth about it. Like, it's terrible. And I feel for you Razorback fans. Like, that's who I feel for in this whole thing. Y'all do not deserve this at all. You did everything right. You supported the program. You showed up for games. You put season tickets out there. The NIL has been great in basketball. Like, you have done everything in your power as fans to make this work. There was nothing that happened that you could have avoided. Like, people start bringing up what about all those rumors and stuff that were going on, on social media and stuff about the craziness inside the team and in the locker room. Yeah, that was terrible. Yeah, that was crazy. But as I said before, that could have been addressed too. That should have been addressed. That should have been nixed immediately. 100%. But everyone's like, well, John, you can't address every rumor and craziness like that. You're just going to give credit to it. No, you're not. When you have national people that are bringing up the rumors and talking about it in the stories, you address it. It's one thing if it's just, Jethro on Twitter, but you had people of note with a huge audience that were talking about it. Not this love triangle. And he's like, you could have addressed it. You should have addressed it. But nothing's been addressed, and that's the problem. Nothing's ever been addressed. Nothing's been communicated by any of the sides. And so, Razorback fans, you've been just sitting up here wandering in the wilderness for 40 years, just waiting on whenever it's going to happen. Like, you're just like, oh, it seems inevitable. It seems like it's a problem. We have no idea what's going on. We're just going to have to be here whenever it's official. It's unfair. But as much as I hate to say it, folks, I just feel like it's over. And I really hate that it's ending this way. I've always loved Muss. I've defended Muss. I'm a huge fan of Muss still to this day. But there is not a single thing that you can tell me or change my mind on in thinking that this was handled the right way, because it wasn't by anybody. So, he may go to USC, but it just doesn't give the vibe that he's going to be back here. So we'll talk about what if that happens here in just a second. But folks, Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire Stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have your Fire TV. Fire TV created Fire TV channels to deliver constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us here at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on the latest world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and so much more. Not to mention the great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos, all included. So check out the Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. And if you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you definitely should. Trust me on this one. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Again, it hasn't, at the recording of this podcast, has not been made official that Eric Musselman is moving on or taking the USC job or anything. However, since he is interviewing for the job, odds are that he's offered the job, he will take it. So, that being said, if he is to take the job, that leaves a vacancy open for Arkansas. What happens? What happens? Who's the target for Arkansas? Well, to me, it's the same three that you've probably been hearing about and been discussing. Coaching carousels and searches are always so fun, and I think it's always fun to discuss different names. But to be honest, folks, I firmly believe with this particular deal, if this ends up being a coaching search for Arkansas, it's not going to be a long-lasting one. You will have a coach named within 48 hours. Once Muss leaves, I firmly believe you will have a new coach named in less than 48 hours. So you won't have to wait long. But here's kind of what I'm looking at. To me, the number one prospect, the number one target, is Chris Beard. He's at Ole Miss. I know he signed a new contract. I believe his buyout is $3.5 million, somewhere in there. But Chris Beard's the guy. And from my understanding, I don't even think that there's a hesitation from anybody at the U of A or anything. I think that he's 100% their number one target too. I think the connection there from when he was at UALR was big. Obviously, he has success everywhere he goes. And him being at Ole Miss, which is not a major basketball program, there would be interest in him coming to Arkansas and making that jump to step in immediately as new head coach. That's who to me would be the number one target, and that's to me also who I would like to target. Now, some of you, as I know, and not surprising, have brought up his baggage that he has. There's no question he's had issues. That's why he got fired from Texas. And to be honest, he would have been at Texas still to this day if it wasn't for all that happened and went down. The charges were dropped against him. And I am not condoning anything that may or may not have happened in that situation. It's a dicey situation. It's a rough situation. But, I also believe that, sometimes in some certain cases you get second chances. And I also believe that he is a coach that is able to win. And you can call it terrible a way of approaching it or as a program or anything, but there is a reason why he got that Ole Miss job. There's a reason why he'll get other jobs too. Like if it's not Arkansas hiring him, if it's this year or even next year, somebody else will. Like he will make a jump to because he is that good of a coach. I know whether it's right or wrong, I get it, but there's some stuff that has happened again where the charges got dropped, and it seems like that's something that he's been working on and has gotten better from. Just from my standpoint, I don't know if that's true or not, but it certainly seems like it. And so, if they're wanting to go down that route, I would approve of it. I think that there needs to be contingencies that are made in that contract. I think that there needs to be, certain things that and expectations that are met to make sure something like that does not happen, 100%. But I believe, not just for me, but I'm talking about just from the university, I believe that if they had what it took and had in place a deal for Chris Beard that was good enough for him to take, he would take it and Arkansas would accept it. I also believe that if you think back to when Arkansas, before they hired Muss, Chris Beard was at Texas Tech, and he was about to take Texas Tech to the national championship. They were in the Final Four. And people were bringing up, how there was boosters that were wanting to wait on Chris Beard before Yurchek wanted Muss, boosters wanted Chris Beard. There was some back and forth, and they were waiting to say, hey, if he loses the championship game, we want to go down there and hire him. Or losing the Final Four, they want to go down there and hire him, right then. And he didn't. He ended up winning. So then they went to Muss. Now, again, that was just what was being said at the time. That's what it felt like at the time. But that seemed to be the case, is that they were making that jump, and they wanted Chris Beard. Some wanted Chris Beard. It was the boosters, certain boosters at least, wanted Chris Beard. They were willing to back up the money truck for him to get him. I think that those boosters would also be willing today to pay the buyout at Ole Miss to be able to bring him in for a great deal. That's just my idea. If it's not Chris Beard, which again, I think that's their first, second, and third option is Chris Beard. If it's not, I think you need to go to – I'd like to see Will Wade. I really would. I know it's crazy. I'd like to see Will Wade as coach. I know Jerome Tang was in the mix, and he'd probably be the likely one from the U of A perspective for second after Chris Beard. But to me, I think Will Wade would be my second choice. Did a great job at McNeese State. And, yeah, he was a little bit of a jerk, it seemed like at times down at LSU, but he won. He wins games. He's a good coach. And Jerome Tang, I feel like, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, that's the worst Arkansas could do. They're in great shape. So either way, that's the three, I think. I think Chris Beard, he's the guy. I think he's the guy. And you got to make sure that whatever you do it the right way, handle it the right way. But no matter who it is, again, it's going to be a quick turnaround. Folks, the sports calendar is loaded, and FanDuel's making it even more exciting to get in on the action because right now new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet the tourney, MLB, NBA, NHL, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Here's how funny it is, man. Bobby Petrino met with the media on Tuesday for the first time since being hired. And it was great to see him in action, see him talking, and to hear from some of the things that he had to say. Talking about Taylon Green and how much he likes him and talking about his his presence out there and talking about how much he loves the offensive line and how he really likes the transfers they brought in and how the wide receivers have really been coming along. And the dude loves him some Luke Has. Like when he got asked about Luke Has, he lit up. He loves that kid and what he's been able to do. But, obviously the basketball side of things has been the most important thing and on people's minds. But still, it's great to hear from Bobby Petrino. And who knows, maybe we'll dive into it a little bit more tomorrow. But it's amazing how we've come full circle for this, as I talked about yesterday on the podcast, but also just how excited he is to be back at Arkansas. You can just tell, man, he loves it here. He was smiling and kind of joking around. Like, it was funny. It was weird, but it was funny. And, some of us may look at it like, oh, that's bad. You want him to be a jerk. But I don't know. He's even approached it too. And one of the things he said in the press conference I loved was the difference between being a head coach and an offense coordinator. Somebody asked him about the defense. Like, has anybody stood out to you on the defense side of the bar when going up against him and everything? And he goes, that's a great thing is I don't know their names. He's like, I know numbers. I think I know the starting 11 maybe. But other than that, I have no idea. I've been too focused on the offense and too focused on what we're doing to pay attention. I'm like, that's what I actually kind of like to hear. Like, is there any reason for Bobby Petrino and the offense coordinator to know the names of defensive players? No, there's not. Maybe he knows them at some point. Maybe he knows at least some of the starters, but it shows you how focused he is on the offense and the task at hand. But the offense has been cooking, man. It's been looking good. It's been feeling good. I like the direction they're going. I like what they've been able to do, what they've been able to accomplish so far. And I think it's just going to continue to build and continue to get better. So can't wait to see it all continue to grow. But I've been impressed. And hearing from Bobby and the fact that he's here, like, I just get excited. Like, when you walk into the press conference room, when he walked in there, I just got this presence again. I'm like, I'm still scared of this kid, this coach. I'm scared to death of him. He has never yelled at me once, but I've seen him yell at other people. And there's just an intimidation factor of it. Even in his older age, he made the joke when he was asked about, do you feel like people say you've mellowed out a lot since you were here before? Do you feel that same way? And his response was great, just stone-faced. I've always been mellow. And everyone knows, okay, sure. Yeah, very mellow, Bobby Petrino. But that's the good news, at least. You may have a coach leaving in Muss, but you got a coach back in Bobby Petrino, and it just feels good. I love it. And I think it's going to be great for offense and for Arkansas coming up this football season. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at the John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.